I want you to think about Left 4 Dead for a second. What do you remember? If you're anything like me, I bet it's not what the zombies look like, not the maps, but rather the atmosphere, the sounds, the music, the witch's crying that makes you frantically look around trying to find her, just to avoid her. Left 4 Dead is, in many ways, a game built on sound as much as everything else. The sound design in this game isn't just about atmosphere either, it's a language that the game uses to communicate with you. Left 4 Dead 2 and Left 4 Dead 1 are like the English language, the American and British versions. They're the same yet very different and unmistakable. So let's dive into the genius of Left 4 Dead sound design and music and analyze this quote-unquote language. If you've ever played Left 4 Dead, you probably know about the famous AI director. It's a behind-the-scenes system that controls how many zombies are out there, what kind of special infected you will encounter, and what items you will find based on how well your team is doing in real time. It keeps the game from feeling scripted and makes sure that every playthrough is unique in one way or another. In other words, it keeps the game replayable. This system is also closely related to music and sound design. There is a concept that is used in a lot of modern video games. It's called adaptive scoring. The name speaks for itself. The game, in this case Left 4 Dead, is always in one of roughly 4 audio states behind the scenes: relaxed, tense, panicked, and dead. Each state has its own musical palette and different instrumental layers, different tempos, and different arrangements, and the director is constantly deciding which state you're in based on your health, proximity to enemies, and how overwhelmed you are. Let me give you an example so that you can understand it even better. Here is a complete score I made for demonstration purposes. Now, when nothing is happening and your team is doing fine, nothing is playing. However, should you encounter a bunch of zombies, a few layers kick in. They're looped and played for as long as the game thinks is necessary. The more intense the situation becomes, the more complete the score sounds. It's a bit of an oversimplification, but it's perfect for this video. Here's where it gets interesting. Most games only use adaptive scoring. They don't have the AI director system that Left 4 Dead is famous for. But that exact system, in combination with adaptive scoring, is what makes the game feel even more unpredictable and replayable. The game throws you into unique situations that the score then adapts to. As I said, when things are going fine, there is almost no music at all, just ambient sounds of a city falling apart in a zombie apocalypse. But when you actually hear a musical cue, it means that something is either about to happen or already is, because the game trains you to react to the music itself as an indication of a threat, and Left 4 Dead is far from the only game that does this well. Silent Hill takes a different approach to the same problem, but that's the next video, so consider subscribing. Now, this is where I should talk about the special infected, because each one of them has a unique score. But before I do that, I would like to show you how much of a masterclass the trailer for this game was. The trailer is no longer than a few minutes, but it manages to show us absolutely everything the game has to offer. Unique sound cues for each special infected, music that adapts to your situation,
They're coming!
Run like hell!
the core alarm system,
This is gonna get bad.
and the whole point of the game, which is going from point A to point B.
We made it. I can't believe we made it.
Son, we just crossed the street.
Rewatching this trailer for my research made me a little bit ashamed of the trailer I made for my own video game. So, as I said, each special infected has a unique audio cue designed to do one thing and one thing only: teach you that they're around and are about to attack you before you can even see them. Now I want you to imagine a scene. You're going through an empty street, shooting down an occasional zombie. Somewhere in the distance you hear a human-like cry. You've been here before, and you know that it means that there is a witch nearby. She doesn't scream or growl, but rather simply cries. You know well enough not to run past her or point your flashlight at her, though you have absolutely no clue where she is. And that crying gets louder as you approach her, which means the audio is simultaneously communicating danger, distance, and emotional unease all at the same time. But problems rarely come alone, do they? You're hearing gurgling, and the sound is coming closer. You can hear the boomer through the walls. As unsettling as it is, you at least have some sort of spatial awareness. But unfortunately, you miscalculate, and when you turn around the corner, you run into him. It's a brilliant enemy. No matter what is happening, you always try to deal with him first, because one slip up and a horde is coming. That's exactly what happens next. You get scared for a second and shoot him instinctively. He explodes. A horde of zombies is now aware of your location and is rushing rushing to your place. But problems keep coming. As you shoot your way to safety through the horde of zombies, you hear a distant sound, like an animal predator. A low growl that turns into a loud scream as he jumps to attack you. There's an entire arc in his audio design. You can hear him, well, hunting before he finally lines you up and attacks you. There have been more times than I'd like to admit that I got legit scared because of his sound design. As soon as you hear the scream, you try to flicker and one-shot him before he gets you. If he does, your only hope is your teammates. But one of your teammates is already in trouble. Shooting zombies is loud and you miss someone coughing. The smoker, obviously. This distinctive wet cough was buried under your gunfire. The audio was a heads up that you failed to hear. Now your teammate is caught and another teammate is shooting at the smoker. The problem is, he misses a few shots and hits the witch. Now she's screaming and running towards the perpetrator, taking down everyone in her way. And just when you think that things can't get any worse, you hear heavy orchestral percussion, aggressive strings and brass, the whole final boss theme, which means a tank is coming. And in a way, it is the final boss. The whole scene wasn't scripted or sequenced. That's just how the AI director works in real time, and it's exactly how adaptive scoring communicates with you. It tells you exactly what enemies out there and where they are. By the time the tank is running towards you, the theme is already intense, sort of the culmination of the scene. Each sound was designed with a specific question in mind. What information does the player need to know, and how can we deliver it in the most intuitive way possible? The answer is to have a distinct sound for each special infected. This sound teaches the player through repetition rather than a text box saying, "Oi mate, there's a tank in it." What's worth noting is how the survivors communicate with each other. To make the world even more believable, Valve used adaptive scoring not just for music but also for voices. If a character needs help, they will say it. If they're changing weapons or reloading, they will say it. If they find something like pills, they will also say it. Once again, it runs purely on the state system that detects what's happening in the game, pulls the correct audio file, and plays it back to you in real time. This is genuinely smart game design. Furthermore, each character has a unique story to tell. Bill talks about military.
Even being in a war doesn't prepare you for this. They never stop. They come at you and they never goddamn stop.
Lewis is an endless optimist.
If you ignore the crazy guy and the zombies, nice town.
Zoe is full of pop culture references.
Game over, man! Game over!
What the hell was that?
Francis is constantly complaining.
I hate hospitals, and doctors, and lawyers, and cops.
In a way, all those voice lines are sort of ambient. They are played throughout gameplay and make the world feel real and believable. It's a small thing, I know, but it's a great attention to detail in a game that's focused on mostly pew-pew against zombies. By the way, do you know how Valve's games are creepy? Not in a way that there's a jump scare around the corner, but rather the ambience of it all. In Half-Life 2, for example, there's always something happening in the background, whether it's civil protection conducting yet another raid on citizens of City-17 or some truly horrific sounds. If you're in Ravenholm, Left 4 Dead does something very similar in setting the tone and atmosphere. There is always some ambient sound that's building the world around you without you even noticing it. The wind, the distant screams or sirens, it makes the world feel like it's never truly empty or safe. Now compare it with the safe room. At the end of each map, you get to a safe room, which is that point B I mentioned earlier. When you enter the room and close the door, the ambient sounds disappear and the music shifts to something very different. Here, take a listen. Each sound has a purpose. They make up the world around you. The car alarm, for example, is what leads to a horde. If you accidentally hit a car, the alarm will go off and a number of infected will rush to your location. And critically, it's a sound that you can't stop once it starts, which creates a very specific feeling of helplessness that the game uses brilliantly in those "oh no" moments. But my favorite part is the music. It was composed by Mike Moraski, who was told something that would make a lot of composers spiral. Write a score, but make sure that that score doesn't sound like a score. Traditional game music is looped in the background. It sets the mood and gets largely ignored after a few hours if done wrong. Mike's approach was to treat music as an active layer of the gameplay. Remember how I compared Left 4 Dead sound design and music to a language? That's what I meant. It's a way of communicating, the kind of communication that would be too costly to ignore. The result is the score that we all know and love today. There are long moments with no music at all, only to be interrupted by a sudden sound, or music cue. Mike also built the entire score around the principle of earned resolution. In most game music, there's always resolution. It's musical, and when you're working on a commercial release, it's the right thing to do. The electronic dance music genre is practically built on this tension. You don't want to leave your listeners hanging. In Left 4 Dead, however, resolution is rare because the score tends to stay in unresolved territory. It never quite ends and gives you the satisfaction of, yep, that bad moment is over now, I can exhale. Which brings me to Left 4 Dead 2. When we were young, some of us used to imagine being in a zombie apocalypse. In our fantasies, we'd be the main character, the one who always has enough guns and ammo, food and medicine, and never has to make hard decisions. Basically, a summer camp with zombies. In reality, however, a zombie apocalypse would be devastating. You'd almost certainly lose everyone you know and love, be constantly looking for food, and be so stressed that heart attacks would be the leading natural cause of death. So when I look at Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2, I have mixed feelings. On one hand, Left 4 Dead 2 is a more complete game. It has more maps, a better gameplay system, more weapon variety, and even more players in general. But I can't help but feel weird about how the second game is more fun. It has less of that "this is the end" kind of energy to it. The characters make jokes shooting their way out, but at the same time, I don't mean to say that I wanted Left 4 Dead 2 to be more realistic. I think that realism is a very specific corner of gaming that I tend to find a bit boring. What I mean to say is that Left 4 Dead, the original game, was darker, rougher around the edges, and genuinely scarier than the second game, despite the latter being a better game overall. So I personally think that Left 4 Dead 1 has the better atmosphere than the second game. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments down below, and as always, stay awesome and keep making this world a better place.